Hello everybody, welcome back to Orange Patches Productions and Train Simulator 2021. We're here on Raton Pass. I'm just reading my instructions here. Okay, so looks like we have permission to go forward. Hope everybody's doing okay. I think it said 10:01 I have permission to go. Santa Fe, train 448, LJBA, was a manifest freight operating from La Juniata, Colorado to Barstow, California via the Raton subdivision. Your engineer of train 448 and stopped at Trinidad for additional rear help and momentarily will begin the arduous climb up the east slope of famed Raton Pass. On this point, you have a trio of warm-bonnet-clad AT&SF GE General Electric -8s. -840 CWs, sorry. With the fourth G is the rear helper. Alright. And this location is 19 miles away. Okay. Alrighty, so it looks like we are set to go. Moving forward. Release the brakes. And here we go. Oh, look at that Amtrak station. That is so cool. And they still got the old Santa Fe. Wow. That is beautiful. I actually bought this. Not gonna lie, I bought this pack primarily for the -8s when it came out, so I didn't really play much of it. But I played a little bit of this yesterday. This was a fun scenario and route. I didn't play through it all the way through. That's scary. AI truck. Alright, what's our signal look like here? Now we get a yellow. Knocks the throttle back, just one. The horn is not the greatest on this model, I will say. You can swap it out for a Leslie, but I thought I had done that retroactively, but apparently I didn't. Still very generic K5. Oh well. And if memory serves, we should be passing an AI train. Boy, this scenery is just great. It really is. But I hope everybody's had a decent summer. My summer's been not much to speak of. Alright, now I can start notching up. Oh, I forgot to turn off the bell initially. I apologize. I do that so much. I see the icon on and I just subconsciously forget it. Doesn't matter because I'm going to have to turn it back on anyway for the crossing. There's the AI trailer train. Yeah, my summer was not anything really noteworthy at all. I have no game audio, so you'll have to excuse me. As far as Railfanning is concerned, I went to Hershey a couple of weeks ago. That was okay, but surprisingly a lot has changed there at the Derry Road crossing. For one, there was a house that used to be across from the main line. That's completely demolished, and the hill it was on was basically flattened, and they're building what appears to be either an industrial building or an apartment complex. I'm not entirely sure. Something big. So there's all that construction going on. And then in the parking lot where I usually film, Norfolk Southern put up a small barrier with no trespassing signs. It's not a very good barrier, but it is one nevertheless. There were some other rail fans when I went that day, and we speculated that some of the kids must have, they leave the Jeep 38 for the Hershey switching there overnight, and we figured that some of the kids must have gotten onto it or something, or somebody must have trespassed in ways they shouldn't, so they finally put something up. But it doesn't obscure the filming too much, but it does make it so that you can't really get as dynamic of shots. So unfortunately, I think that spot is losing its charm, and it's going to be more Lebanon for me. So, it happens. I just wasn't expecting such a quick change. Before that, I hadn't been in at least a month, but in that month, they got a lot done. So, yeah. And then I went to see the 611 at Strasburg Railroad. That was pretty fun. Actually got to ride behind it in open air coach. That was a pretty good experience. I got some pictures and video of that, which I still haven't posted. I posted some of the pictures. I didn't post any of the video. To be honest, I wasn't entirely satisfied with the video. My plan initially was to go back and take more videos and pictures before it leaves in October. I don't know if I'm still going to be able to do that or not. There have been some things that have happened. So, it is what it is. But it was cool to see the 611 again. I saw it when it first came, but I didn't get to ride or actually be on the station grounds when it was there because it was so packed. The first time 611 came to Strasburg was so packed. You wouldn't believe it. They were charging for parking, which they don't normally do. It was crazy. But the second time was a little bit more chill. Plus we had tickets, so it made it easier. Nothing's been easier with all of this post-COVID stuff. And I know there's another variant, but I say post-COVID because in my area people have pretty much gotten as much back to normal as possible. The biggest concern right now is seeing supply shortages. Those aren't good. A lot of our grocery stores aren't carrying even some of the basics. It's very concerning. There's another small yard here, some coal hoppers and some more GEs. yeah, I really like this route. I didn't even turn on my headlight. Wow. Some engineer would have been fired for that alone. But if you've seen any of my other train simulator videos, you know I lose focus easy. Let's take a look at the train, because we haven't done that yet. Not bad. Pretty decent length. Pretty decent length. I don't know much about Raton Pass. I haven't actually seen much footage of it. But I do like the route in Train Simulator. I imagine it's AT&SF now. Yeah, that was a little too late on the horn. Alright, now the hill's getting steep. And I know everything looks a little dark. The lighting is not great for some reason. I feel like I messed with the brightness settings too much. Should be a lot brighter than this, but maybe it'll show up fine in the recording. Maybe. Alright guys, we're going to take a break in this first half, and I will see you in the second half. second half of the trip. And we're not that much closer, but I kind of wanted to show how steep the grade is as you look below. It's a 2.2% grade right now. And it is steep. Also, I wanted to apologize for putting the bell on and leaving it on for so long. It's such a common mistake. I know I apologized for it earlier, but you know, it is what it is. But so far, I am really enjoying this run. I kind of want to do this route with some Santa Fe yellow bonnet SD40s or something along those lines. I'm speeding. That's what I get for not paying attention. Alright, well that doesn't look like too steep of a penalty. Thought I was doing so good too. The grade is definitely evened out. It's a 1.1% now. Let's see, how far away are we? 2 miles. And we're 10 miles from our final destination. And here comes another oncoming train. What do we got? Ooh, coal. One of the things I don't like, though, is that every locomotive that you pass is a -8. Be nice to see some more yellow bonnets. This is a user-made scenario, though, so they're just working with the tools that they got. I do like those coal hoppers, though, those industrial sort of power plant coal hoppers. Those are really, really cool. It's a long one. Most coal trains are, but still. Wow. Oh, that's unfortunate. So easy on this grade to lose speed, but if you're notched too high, it's so easy to speed in general. Well, they've got no shortage of power on this thing, that's for sure. I want to see if these things are 6 or 4 axle. These look like 6 axles for sure, like what I'm running. The ones in the front, I honestly couldn't tell. Yeah, no, those are 6 axles. I mean, I see some GP60Ms and other things that were around during this time. But it is what it is. 20-mile-an-hour speed limit here is kind of, I mean, it makes sense because you're climbing. And this is a 2-part scenario. I should have mentioned that before. I'm only doing the first part. But man, this is a beautiful route. I really like it. If only we could get some routes like this in trains. For roads like the Santa Fe and the Southern Pacific and all that. Because there's so much equipment in trains and so few routes to run it on. They're just kind of like, oh, you want a route? Do it yourself. And I am working on a route in trains, completely original, fictional, wherever that I'm doing. But I don't know how far I'm actually going to get on it because it's my first route and I'm very inexperienced. You know, some things are easier than others. I can't do yard ladders to save my life. I've watched a approach medium's tutorial on it and seen different things on it, and I can't get it down for some reason. The way you have to overlap and overlay tracks, it just doesn't work for me. I'm not entirely sure what I'm doing wrong. Now I'm just watching the speedometer like a hawk, looking up every couple of minutes to see if there's any crossings, which there haven't been for quite a while, and I wouldn't imagine so, because we're pretty high up in elevation. But we're coming up on our next track marker. Once we hit this one, I'm going to cut away again, and once we hit marker 4, then I'll start recording again. Just because I don't want this thing to be so bloated. Ooh, almost sped there. Good thing I caught that. Yeah, I don't want this video to be too terribly long. I'm very concerned about the length. Although longer videos are better for engagement, a lot of people just don't have the attention span to watch something over 20 minutes. This 20-mile-an-hour speed limit is really killing me here, though, because it makes so much better time if it was at least 30 or 40. But I get it. It's a steep grade. I'd rather be safe than sorry. You don't want a bad chemical spill like what happened at SP in California in the 90s. I actually didn't know about that for the longest time until I saw there was a documentary on Sci-Fi that my father was watching. I just caught the end of it. I wanted to check again because it looked like with the shadows, like one of the doors was open. But yeah, the California in the mid to late 90s, before they merged with the UP, almost sped again. But before the SP, Southern Pacific, merged with the Union Pacific, on, I believe it was on Raton Pass, there's a sharp curve and a small bridge, and they derailed over it, and a bunch of chemical cars spilled into the river and contaminated it. It's one of the worst incidents in the railroad's history in terms of contamination. One of the worst in California. Killed a lot of fish instantly. Since then, they put up a bridge with those sort of braces, those sort of metal reinforced. I don't know the actual structural engineering term for it, but they basically secured it a little more where it happened. And as far as I know, it hasn't happened since. And it was all because there were some center beams that were not properly lined up in the train, some empty center beams. Empty center beams are dangerous. They've been the cause of a lot of derailments. If they're placed in the wrong part of a train, they're so lightweight compared to the rest of the loads that they can really throw off the train if there's enough of them. A lot of times, people assembling the trains don't think of that. But after that incident, it sparked new rules saying that you have to be more careful, at least on the SP, and I would imagine it carried over into the UP. Now, Norfolk Southern, on the other hand, well, that's a whole different story. Horseshoe curve. Sorry, I need to go get that cough checked out. Yeah, I hadn't heard about that. It was pretty neat to hear. Pretty unfortunate to hear, too, really. A lot of fish died. People who had gone up there to fish for a long time couldn't fish for... I don't even remember how long they said it took to decontaminate. But eventually the population of fish did bounce back. I think they said it was the worst man-made environmental disaster in California's history. The worst some type of incident, I'm not entirely sure what. But you know what, the heck with it. I'm not going to cut here. I'm going to keep going. Okay, now the grade is stiffening up. Notch up pretty high. I'm going to go all the way to 8. And then drop down just as I get closer to 20. Just get a little boost of speed up the grade here. It's funny because it feels like railroads have become less safe since then. There have been a lot more derailments. Thankfully, not a lot of them have been fatal in the past couple of years. There haven't been a whole lot of collisions either that I've seen. There were some in the, or there was at least one major one on AT&SF in the mid-early 2000s, near around 04, 05. But other than that, recently I haven't heard of any major head-on collisions. And that was due to texting. Somebody was checking a text message. Of course, I'm setting a bad example right now because I'm all kinds of distracted, but this is a virtual train, so there's no real repercussions here. Let's see how we're doing here. Well, the train's still on the tracks. That's always a good sign. Boy, don't you... engineers out there, don't you wish you had this view of your train? Like a window? Be like a drone or something just to inspect the train as you're going up a steep grade and rough tracks. I love scenes though where you see trains snaking around curves and that type of scenery. Although it's probably not as pleasant for crews. For rail fans and people who like the scenery, it's pretty awesome. Hey, I remembered to turn the bell off that time. Yay for me. That's the first crossing I've seen in quite a while. So right now this is coming up to 2 15-minute segments. It's probably going to be a 30-plus minute video. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that, honestly. Boy, I wish I could have seen the Santa Fe in action. Believe it or not, I never actually saw the Santa Fe in action. I just read about it as a kid, and by the time, I started getting Trains magazine, Santa Fe was already AT&SF. So and most of their articles were AT&SF articles. But Santa Fe stuff would always pop up whenever I did anything railroad related, whether it was simulators or games. And I fell in love with it, just reading the history. And it's why I'm going to do it as my railroad of the month for September. People, I put out a vote, and people, wow, 3.3%. Now that's great. That dude, the coal train is flying down the other side. This was real life. You'd see all the brake smoke, and the dynamics would be screaming. Good grief. What a grade. Dispatcher did say it was going to be a busy day on the line. I guess he wasn't kidding. Wow. And keep in mind, folks, this is the first time I'm actually playing through this scenario. One of the first times I'm actually playing on the route for more than a couple of minutes. The first time I got the route, I booted it up just to see the Dash 8s. Yeah, I'm struggling now. I'm at notch 8 and I'm still losing ground. Even with the helper. 15 miles an hour. Still going up. As long as I don't dip below 10 miles an hour, I should be good. I don't think that would happen. Though it makes you wonder why I don't have 2 rear helpers. I only have 1. And it's working its heart out, that's for sure. But yeah, like I was saying, I fell in love with the Santa Fe when I was a kid, pretty much. Just the iconography, the focus on quality service while having a frankly beautiful image, you know, with the war bonnet paint scheme. I mean, look at this. Well, there's a stinking virtual tree in the way, but look at that. Big, bold Santa Fe letters. The red, the yellow, the silver. I mean, this was Santa Fe's, the way that they used to do it for those non-rail fans or people who aren't into the history. The way Santa Fe used to do it was that paint scheme specifically, the red, yellow, and silver war bonnet, they called it, that was for their passenger trains. Like the Chief, the Super Chief, the El Capitan. And with the freight, you had the yellow bonnet scheme, which was yellow and blue. And it was a similar design. Although early on, it wasn't a similar design, it was just yellow and blue. But they both had the front emblem there, which is known as the cigar band, because it looks like a cigar logo. You can't see my mouse because I've got that disabled, but I'm pointing right at the nose of the locomotive where it says Santa Fe. The way it kind of wraps around. I think it was purposefully designed to be like a cigar band. That's probably why it's called that. I don't know for sure. I'd have to look into it a little bit more, but that's what it's referred to as. And both paint schemes had that. So in the mid 90s, when Santa Fe switched to just freight in the 60s and 70s, there was just the yellow bonnets, and then in the mid 90s, when they started ordering new locomotives like this Dash 8, some of the bigger, more powerful locomotives they brought back the red and silver war bonnet. For this, the GP60M, the SD70s, the Dash 8s, and I'm not entirely sure, but I think some of the switchers even brought back the red and silver. But again, I'm not 100% sure on that. That might just be a thing I've seen in modeling, like special edition model locomotives. I'm not sure if that was an actual thing or not. Although I've seen more evidence to suggest that it probably was, but I can't confirm that, so I'm not gonna try. But I do know that they brought it back for these bigger locomotives in the mid to late 90s, and it's awesome. And then BNSF happened, and they kept it around for a little bit, and you can still see some BNSF war bonnets today, but their standard is the orange, and that's pretty much it. They kept the cigar band for a while too, even when they switched to orange, which I really appreciated. That was the BNSF Heritage 2 paint scheme. But unfortunately, like all good things, that disappeared in favor of their new logo, which I think is just... Listen, and I doubt that he or she is watching, but I don't like BNSF's current logo. I think it's terrible. I think it's very generic, and I don't like it. I hope they change it in a couple of years. I'd love to be asked to do something for them if I ever get good enough. I mean, I'm an amateur right now. My logos aren't that great, but I'd at least like to submit something better than what they've got. I mean, honestly, what they were doing more Santa Fe style iconography in the beginning when it was called Burlington Northern Santa Fe. But then when they shortened it to BNSF Railway, they kind of made it bland. Now, I love the orange. I wouldn't get rid of the orange. I think orange is a fine color. It's my favorite color, in fact. That's why I call Orange Cactus Production, because orange is my favorite color, and I like cactuses despite never having really been in an environment where cactuses were a regular thing. I just always liked the plant. So, put two things together, and that's the name I came up with. Used to be New Haven Rail Guy, and then before that it was Santa Fe Rail Guy. But I wanted something that felt a little bit more original than those, so that's where I'm at now. But you all probably know this already. Alright, let's see where we're at in terms of distance here. You know, we still got a ways to go. It's about 4 miles. It's not too bad. What are we on? 23 minutes? Yeah. This is going to be a long video, so strap in, folks. I'll try to keep you entertained with talking. But I make these just so you can kind of relax and listen and enjoy the ride, as I do. Man, these grades are steep. I knew they said it was a challenge, but gosh, I can't imagine what this was like during steam. 2% up to 3%, back to 2%, down to 1%. Man. I'll bet you every run through this pass, a steam locomotive had to be thoroughly inspected because, my gosh. And they probably had a lot more water and coal stations, because you would burn a lot. And eventually Santa Fe converted their steamers to oil like a lot of other western railroads did. Funny thing is, most of the eastern railroads, as far as I'm concerned, never converted from coal to oil. I know Pennsylvania didn't. I know New Haven didn't. I don't think Nickel Plate did. I don't believe New York Central did. So, I'm not entirely sure if there was an Eastern Railroad that did. Maybe Norfolk and Western? I don't think so, though. I think they stayed coal throughout. But I know Southern Pacific had oil burners. Union Pacific had oil burners. Santa Fe had oil burners. I don't know if Burlington, CBQ, had oil burners or not. I can't remember. I'm trying to think if there were any other. Chicago, Northwestern. I don't think that they had oil burners, but they weren't really too far west, like UPSP and Cotton Belt, which is basically still SP. Let's be honest. Rio Grande. I really like the Rio Grande. It's probably my second favorite railroad of all time. If I split railroads up into regions, then the lists look different. But if I'm doing an overall all-time list, Rio Grande's definitely number 2. Santa Fe is number 1. If I'm doing a top 5, it goes New Haven, Pennsylvania, Reading. I'm trying to think of some of the ones in between. I haven't put too much thought into that. Because I'm just running on full throttle here, and it's keeping a steady pace. I'm actually not. I'm not bothered by that. But yeah, back to the top 5 railroads of all time. So New Haven's number 5. Reading is number 4. Pennsylvania Railroad's number 3. Number 2 would probably be a toss-up between Norfolk and Western and Lehigh Valley. I'm not entirely sure. Wait a minute. What did I say? Number 5 is New Haven. Number 4 is Pennsylvania. Number 3 is number 4 was Reading. But I'm going to actually move that to number 3 because I really do like the Reading more than the PRR. So, oh, now I'm speeding. Oh, great. Alright, let's try this again. So number 5, New Haven. My great-grandfather was an engineer fireman in New Haven. Number 4 was Pennsylvania. Number 3 was Reading. Number 2 is Rio Grande. And number 1 is Santa Fe. And there are other railroads there that I really like. Oh, this is downhill, so I'm going to have to get the dynamics set up. But yeah, those are my top 5 as a general rule. Just based on their history, and you might notice I didn't include any modern railroads in there. That's because that's a separate list. And I'm not a huge fan of modern railroads. I used to be. In fact, I would say as far as modern railroads, the BNSF used to be my favorite, but they, while I think they're still better than many of the other class 1s, they're just, I don't know, they're everything is so corporatized now in a way that, I mean, it was corporatized back in the day, but it's corporatized now in a way that just doesn't make as much sense. You know what I mean? It's just, it feels lifeless. But we are coming up on the end here. So we're going to go on the west siding. That's what we're looking for. Raton Subdivision dispatcher to train 448. Amtrak train number 3 is behind you. The traffic on the sub today, I'm going to have you hold at Kyoto. I think that's how you say that. Expect to take the siding at Kyoto East and bring your head end to a stop at the Kyoto West siding track signal. Dispatcher out. Roger that. So we're going to have to stop for Amtrak on the downhill. Yep, here comes the... Gotta set it up. The air right now, but yeah, I'm just not a big fan of today's railroads as much as yesterday's. I still love them, but they just nothing like what they once were. I think that's very obvious, and that's obvious in a lot of industry too. It's just kind of with time, you know, everybody's like, oh, once the new millennium hits, everything's going to be great. Well, New Millennium didn't go as well as people thought, for a myriad of reasons. We're already up to 32 minutes. This is going to be about a 40-some minute video. I don't know why I'm terribly worried about it. Okay, now I'm speeding. Where is this siding? It says I'm like right on top of it, but it doesn't show up yet. Yeah, this is full dynamics. It's not going to be there. I can't run down and release brakes because it'll just go way out of control. Once it gets below a certain speed, though, I will release just to let the train roll a little bit. I mean, look at this. This is a 3.2% breakdown. Basically a roller coaster. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I thought it was pretty good. There's some nice chatting in. And that's what these are about. It's just nice, relaxing chatting. That's what most of my simulator videos are about. Just taking a nice ride through a virtual landscape. Imagine just being steamed on this, how hard it must have been. How many brakes Hopefully the dispatcher already has the switches set. Indeed he does. This is a pretty long siding. Good thing too, because I've got a fairly lengthy train here. This is almost going to be 50 minutes. Wow. I hope you guys enjoy listening to me because, oh boy. Siding appears to be just long enough to fit our train. At this point, it's almost a second track, but not quite. Just long enough to accommodate some long freights, although I wonder if they have any trouble with some of the PSR trains now. Their length. Yeah, dynamic brakes are doing nothing on this grade. Nothing at all. If you guys want to see me do a second scenario in this, let me know. Because I will, but I'm planning on just doing this one in a 50-minute to an hour video. Whatever this turns out to be. Whoa, Nelly. A lot. mean, stuff can go wrong on an uphill too, but downhills are far less controlled. And the steam, both are a nightmare. You don't have traction motors. You do have sand. That does help, but just gonna have to hope for the best with steam and have a good brakeman. Later on, with the invention of air brakes, even then. My speed got really low there. We're already at the good grief, 41 minutes. And the reason I'm so concerned about time, folks, is because when this has to render out and upload, it's just going to take more time. Oh, man. But I'm having fun. There's the signal, so... dynamic brakes are doing next to nothing without any air assistance. I just silver shot it. Shouldn't affect my score too much, but you never know. Yeah, that's bad. In the real world, I'd probably get fined for that. Well, folks, that was the first half of this scenario, so... thank you for taking this ride with me. Well done. While we wait for Amtrak train number 3 to overtake us, sit back, relax, make a cup of coffee, your beverage of choice. Let's see what our final score was. Oh, I guess because this was a user scenario that didn't. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next video. This has been Andre with Orange Cactus Productions, and I will see you all further down the line. God bless. Have a good one. Peace.